Okay, well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, an introduction to the AOOS Ocean Data Explorer. This event is being held in the International Arctic Research Center on the University of Alaska, Fairbanks-Trothieta campus. The Alaska Center for Climate and Assessment and Preparedness, we're also known as ACCAP, is hosting this event. ACCAP is part of the National Climate Adaptation Partnerships Network, which is funded by the NOAA Climate Program Office. ACCAP has been working here in Alaska for over 16 years to improve the ability of Alaskans to adapt to a changing climate and environment. A few logistics before we get started. The webinar is being recorded, and while the speakers are presenting, I've muted your microphone and disabled your video. We will have some time at the end for a Q&A session, and at that time, I will allow you to unmute yourself and turn on your video if you'd like to ask a question. But feel free to drop questions in the chat as the presenters are presenting, and we'll try to get to the questions in the chat as they come up, but any ones that we don't get to, we'll address them in the Q&A at the end. And the recording will be on our website later this afternoon, and I will send an email with the link to the recording along with any of the links that the presenters shared during their presentation. There is a PDF version of the slide deck on our website, and I'll drop that here in the chat in just a moment. So at that, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Ed Plum, and I'm the Weather and Flood Hazard Specialist here at ACCAP. And it's my pleasure to introduce you to today's speakers. Taylor Borgfeldt serves as the Water Level Watch Coordinator for the Alaska Ocean Observing System. They're also known as AOOS. She collaborates closely with the Alaska Water Level Watch partners, collaborators, and data product developers. Taylor also manages the AOOS water level observing activities and oversees the maintenance and development of the Alaska Water Level Watch data portal. We also have today Shana Wisdom, the Executive Director of AOOS, who will provide an introduction and overview of AOOS. So Taylor and Shana, thank you for joining us today. I'm really looking forward to hearing more about AOOS and also getting the live demo of the Ocean Data Explorer. So the floor is all yours. You can take it away.
Great. Thanks. Well, and I'll say thanks to Taylor for taking this on. Taylor's our newest employee, and she's jumped right in. So really appreciate working with her and the rest of the AOOS staff. So I'm Shana. I'm the director for AOOS. I just passed my 5-year mark, but AOOS has been around for 23 years. So we're a long time supporter of ACCAP. So for those of you that don't know, AOOS is part of a national program. We are under the Integrated Ocean Observing System, or IOOS. IOOS is a NOAA program under the National Ocean Service. So IOOS employees are actually fed employees under NOAA, but there are 11 regional associations across the US, including the Great Lakes, that are not. So we all operate under cooperative agreements from NOAA. And we've been operating since 2003. So we actually just had our 21st anniversary party last fall. It was really exciting. Our mission really is about increasing observing and forecasting in all regions. We have a board of 23 members of federal and state agencies, academic institutions, research, nonprofits, tribal. We do operate as a nonprofit organization with the Alaska Sea Life Center acting as our fiscal sponsor. And we have 10 staff members. When I came on, there were 3.5. So we've definitely doubled in size and are involved in quite a few different programs. Really, and the key for AOOS is our partners are essential for successful ocean observing in our region. So we work with partners through our different networks, through funding, but it's really we're connectors within the ocean space. Next slide. And how we do this in a lot of different ways. For those of you that may have just been at the Marine Science Symposium or the Alaska Forum, you see AOOS logo kind of is everywhere, and it's because we really try to get as much as we can, making our funding as impactful as possible. So we do that by having sustained observations and assets, moorings, gliders, high frequency radars, surveys. So those are kind of the standard way that we've funded programs across the state. We also like to fund and test new technologies, things that work and we can test in Alaska to prove to others, including NOAA, that they work is something that we really like to do. So we have certain types of assets like water level sensors, hydroball. We have some new imaging flow cytobot, and I think Thomas Fergia is on the line here, who's our um, harmful algal bloom coordinator. And then we have things like the SOFAR Ocean Spotter wave buoys for the backyard buoy program. So we really like working with different types of technology to collect the same information. And we also have our collaborations, the partnerships that I talked about. We have our networks that I'll have a slide on. We have community sampling programs, and we really work to leverage funding. We don't get enough to fund this big research on our own. So it's very much about working with other partners. And then data portal, data, that's a big part of what we do. We have our data portal, we have incident response tools, dashboards, and we're really working on other products and services that we'll talk more about. Next slide. So here's some links to our collaboration networks. We have the AHAB network, the harmful algal bloom, the ocean acidification. Darcy's the lead for that. We have the water level watch, which Taylor's the lead of. We also have the Alaska Marine Policy Forum that we co-host with Sea Grant every other month, where people can call in and learn kind of what's going on from a congressional standpoint, as well as information on anything that affects kind of marine policy. And this is led by me or Jenny Eckert from the Sea Grant. And then we have our newest one is the Northeast Pacific Acoustic Telemetry. So this is all about animal tracking and tagging. If you have any questions, the links are in here, and I see that Ed's been putting these in the chat as well. So please take a look and let me know if you have any questions. Before we get into the data portal, there are some other things that we've done. We have the Backyard Buoys Wave Buoy app. This is now live and downloadable on Apple and Android. And it's anyone that's actually deploying these type of SOFAR buoys or MicroSwift or some of the other buoys we're working to get on are on this app that you can look at the link right now, get on your phone, and have good wave near real-time wave information. We're also working on Mariners dashboards, kind of putting everything in one place for Mariners, and we have it both as a desktop version and as a mobile version. And then we're continuing to work on more products outside of our portal. Our mission is very ocean user driven. So if there's some feedback you have on products that you would like to see, please reach out to us. We would love to be able to modify to where this is more useful to everyone. And with that, I will head it over to Taylor. If you have any questions, I'll put my email in the chat. Please reach out to me at any time. And thanks again for attending. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Shayna. Thank you, Ed. My name is Taylor Borgfeldt. I am the Water Level Watch Coordinator with AOOS. And we're transitioning into the Ocean Data Explorer discussion now. There's a link here. Ed's putting the links in the chat, and then I'm going to demonstrate a way to navigate to the website just through the AOOS website as well. But as a brief overview of the ODE before we start jumping into navigating the website, it is made up of three main components. There's a map view, a catalog view, and data view. The map view integrates and visualizes data. It's pretty straightforward. It is a map interface, and you can plot real-time sensors, some of the historical data that's available for visualization, see moving platforms such as buoys or gliders plotted on the map. There's a catalog view where you can search and download data. I'm going to walk you through that. But as you can see here, there are a lot of data layers. This lists over 3,000. I'm only going to be skimming the surface today. So if you want to sink your teeth into this, you can really spend a lot of time digging into the details. And then data views are a great way to kind of summarize information, make a quick grab of relevant data for yourself. We'll show you how to build those or utilize the established data views. So now's your chance. If you want to follow along, you're welcome to follow the links, or you can just watch me peruse the website. As an example, I just went to the AOOS website to show you how you can navigate to the platform. So you're going to click on Ocean Data in the top for the Ocean Data Explorer, or ODE. And then you'll see links for the real-time sensor map and the data catalog. But before we jump into that, I wanted to highlight these focus data products. This is just a short list of some that you might find interesting, such as the glider dashboards or these data portals. And the Water Level Watch data portal, for example, is a subset of the main ODE, meaning it's going to have the same interface, but it's going to have a limited set of data that you can work with, just to make it a little bit simpler for a user. So the skills that we talk about today and navigation are going to translate to any of those other platforms. So going to the real-time sensor map, as this loads, I'm going to give a brief explanation. Shayna talked about all the different leverage projects and the ways that AOOS has sponsorship of assets or technical work. This Ocean Data Explorer is meant to provide a centralized platform with standardized visualization of a wide array of data sets. So if you're wanting to see what your fellow scientists and colleagues are up to in the state of Alaska, if it pertains to the ocean and the coast, this is a great place to come and look around. I also want to make a note that this is not an archive, meaning archives have their own set of rules and requirements. We do have a lot of historical data, but this is not technically an archive. It has real-time, near real-time, historical and model data, but it's meant to be a data discovery platform. So this is the view if you're coming to the website fresh. If your view looks slightly different from this, it is likely due to kind of a browser history. Something like cookies are stored. So you may need to clear your cache if you want to start fresh. If you do that, it's going to delete any draft data views you have. So be careful if you have been developing anything. I'm going to give an overview of the three components. So that's the map, the catalog, and the data view. And then I'm going to start walking through an actual real example of how you would navigate this with the data set. So the first is going to be orientation, starting with the map. At the top bar, this will be consistent across any of the views you go to for the Data Explorer. This navigation ribbon will take you to the home page. It'll take you to the catalog, which we'll explore in a moment. This map and the number indicating the number of layers you currently have plotted. You can see dashboards for regional conditions, such as Prince William Sound. If you load this dashboard, you'll get a zoomed in look at the available stations and the various variables that are available to check out in real time. The next in the list is data views. So the bold list is any data view that AOOS has published for public use. So these will always be available for you. If you create your own data views, they will be down here at the bottom in non-bolded font. So when we do an example of creating a new data view, we'll see that in the list here. The downloads button is for any queued data downloads that you have. Settings, you can change the settings if you want to see things in metric, or if you're very interested in seeing all your visualizations in a magma color scheme, you can set that, which is kind of fun. And all of these settings will be remembered. So the next time you log in, that'll be cached and you can just jump back into the same view. The share link is very important. So if you're working on a project and you have loaded all the layers you want, you've zoomed into the area you want, and you want to share it with a colleague or a friend, if you just send them to the portal.aoos, it's going to load in the standard format. However, if you click the share this link, you can send them the exact same view that you're seeing, which is very helpful. The help link, there's documentation. That'll take you to a written guide talking about the same subjects that we're going to discuss today, except for these might have even more detail, so it's a great resource. And an important part to highlight now is that, as it states here, it's being actively developed by Axiom Data Science, now known as Tetra Tech. So this is a AOOS product, but Tetra Tech is the technical developer of the platform. You may have seen at AMSS a similar workshop facilitated by Tetra Tech. And then this red button for feedback, it will send a message to Tetra Tech with any comments or suggestions that you make here. And similar to the share button, it will send them a link of the exact same view you're seeing. So you don't have to explain, I navigated to this page, added this layer, I get this error. When you send the feedback, it'll show them exactly what you're seeing, which is really nice. Including your contact information will allow them to reach back out to you when everything's been resolved or if they have questions on how to address it. Okay, so that's the top ribbon, which will be in all the views. Now let's do a general look at the map interface. There's a standard zoom in, zoom out buttons. You can also use your mouse scroll wheel to zoom in and out. And then there's a box function, so you can zoom in on a region. This polygon feature to draw a dynamic polygon is available for some of the data layers, but not necessarily all of them. But it's kind of fun. You can draw a polygon, and then for the layers that are compatible with the polygon feature, they'll pop up in a list. So for this example, the webcams, which are the blue circles on the map, show up in the list format. So you can see that Quig with all of the most recent webcam photos, and then the subsequent other points that are highlighted with the red ring on the map show up. So that's a nice, easy way to zoom in on a particular zone. Then at the bottom, there's a data pop-up. We'll see this when we work through the data set. When we click on some water level data, you'll see a pop-up here. There are features for time and depth. So these will be, again, applicable to the data set. So if you have maybe modeled data that's relevant for going back in time, you can search by the time bar. Same thing with depth. And on the right side, we have our legend and find data panel. If you don't see this, look for this small collapsible window in the top right. In the legend panel, you're going to see the layers that are displayed on the map. So we have real-time sensors, and if you hover over that particular layer, only the sensors show, and then webcams, same thing. If you hover over webcams, it shows only the webcams. You can minimize to clean it up, and you can toggle layers on and off if you want to hide things from the map, but not necessarily have to reload them later. So we're going to walk through all of these drop-down menus and how to kind of search for data. But at this level, I do want to draw attention to the hexagons that you're seeing and some of the color coding. So right away, you see these nice visuals of hexagons. And that is because the stations are being clustered. Alaska is a really big state. There's a lot of data on this map. So if we turn off the cluster data, all of a sudden you're going to see a lot of points stacking on top of each other and not necessarily presenting a nice visual at this scale. So leaving that back on, it's just a little bit of a cleaner view. Then to understand what the colors are related to, you need to look at the label on the rainbow bar. So for this example, wind speed is automatically plotted here with the values corresponding to the colors shown on the bar. And when we go through this and we change the variable type, this legend will update to correspond with that. Okay, so now you have the Find Data tab. This is your quick shopping list. I would suggest coming here if you know exactly what you're looking for. You don't need explanation. You just know, let's say, I really want to put sea surface temperature on this map. You can type it in. There's a quick button for Add to Map. And then this is going to load and then be visible on the legend list. The downside of Find Data is that it's not verbose. So if you're looking for an explanation or you're wanting to see the metadata more easily, that's where the catalog comes into play. So that's going to be the next component of the ODE that we walk through. So pulling up the catalog, you're automatically dumped to the all list. You could quickly search through the tags. You could type in keywords again, and that just pulls all layers with that word associated, either as a tag or in the title. But there's a lot of other really great ways to kind of pare down the information and jumpstart your search. So I'm going to touch on those. The first of which is stations. So stations are physical locations where equipment is installed. Those stations could have multiple sensors, and of course, sensors can have multiple variables attached to that sensor as well. But to make it relevant for where I am today, I'm going to type in Anchorage, and then I quickly get a list of all stations that have Anchorage in the name. Kind of a nice feature. Data layers is a list of all the data layers. At the top, I don't find this one especially useful in terms of a pared down list. It's still pretty long, but something to point out is that the globe icon indicates that it can be visualized on the map. We're going to see a different icon in just a moment, but if you see a globe, that means you can plot it. And you see this globe down here for layers. And for this group of data, there are 6 subsequent layers that you could individually add to the map. Project data is lumping data sets by the associated project. So the title, the smaller text here, is the name of the project, whereas the large text is the data set. So opening those in different tabs, this is the project, and it gives an overview of the whole project. It has the abstract, points of contact, all of these details with the links to the subsequent data sets, which I already have open. And as you can see, this one doesn't have a globe icon. It has a file folder, meaning it has a file that you can download, but you can't visualize. And that's where you can find this zip file on the subsequent dataset tab. All right, so we're back into the catalog. Those are the few links that are readily available on the ribbon, but you can also look for moving platforms such as buoys or drifters. You can look at variable types. I think this one's pretty straightforward. Let's say that we want to know where all of the stations are that have barometric pressure. If you click on that variable, it does exactly that. It lists all the stations that have barometric pressure with their start and end date for that data set. And then the last on this list is affiliates. An example I have is, let's say that I know I was talking to someone from Marine Exchange the other day, and I really want to pull up that data set, but I can't quite remember what it was. I type in MXAK or type out the full name. And then I get a full list of stations that Marine Exchange is listed as an affiliate on. And then I can quickly go through here, jog my memory and say, aha, it was Grave Point, and then click on that station to go to the relevant station page. The last of the search tools in the catalog is under the Advanced tab. There's a spatial filter. So let me actually clear this Marine Exchange out of there. Right now we have a unfiltered list of all the data layers, but I want to see what is in this small little portion of the state. And there's still quite a few layers that are available, but the list was pared down to what is in this zone. So that's kind of nice. You can also type in your coordinates if you know the bounds that you want, or you can draw the box. Okay. Now for data views, we're going to show you how to build one of these in a little bit, but I wanted to just talk about the general layout of these. So this is for the blob, which was first detected in late 2013 and then continued through 2014 and 2015. I'm using this example because it's like a nice snapshot of an event in time. You're not just looking at current data sets. I think it shows a way to use this tool to either maybe look at typhoon data or any other event that's relevant for you. In the top, you'll have your title and a description. All of this is customizable with HTML formatting. But then we get down to the standard layout. So there will always be an inset map, and these numbers on the map correspond to the individual charts on the right side. And these individual charts are the plots that you select to go on the map. You can change them within the data view. It doesn't affect what is published. But so if you wanted to see the time series, or if you want to go back to the anomaly, all that is editable here. And then you can look at the time span for each of these. They're slightly different. This one is 94 to 21. This one's 2006 to 21. I assume it's based on data availability, but it's a nice walkthrough of a wide array of data. And if you want to co-plot these for a comparison, The individual chart does need to be added to the data view, which we'll show you later. And then you can opt in under this blue dot to have it in the comparison chart. When you do that, it automatically scales the data and co-plots it. If you have different data sets, it will automatically put some data on the left versus right axis as well. I think it's pretty straightforward. The color codes are mapped here, and the numbers are still consistent between the map and the individual charts on the right side. Okay, so that is my very, very quick walkthrough of all the different components of the Ocean Data Explorer, or ODE. At this point, I'm going to demonstrate how to find some data. I'm going to use water level as my example. And then depending on how much time we have, we can dig into some other data sets. So for the real-time sensors, I want to look for real-time water level. There's two options. You can, click and scroll. You can also click and type W. Water level happens to be the first one. Now we see that the map automatically updates as well as the legend. So this doesn't have symbology shown, but it does have a text description saying that the heat map is not available for the water level data. The red features indicate real-time data is available. And we're in that hexagonal view. I'm always partial to seeing individual stations, so I'm turning the cluster data to never. Now we see individual red dots, individual big white dots, and the individual gray dots. Gray just means that those are real-time sensors. Those are included in the overall layer. White means that there is maybe tide predictions or historical water level, but it's not current water level observations. Whereas a red dot indicates that there is real current water level data. You can search by affiliations or sources. Sources and affiliation is used synonymously on the platform. So again, if you wanted to look for an AOOS owned sensor, you could do that. These aren't very interesting. You can kind of change the platform, but it's a little bit more of a limited selection. I'm going to show an example of just typing in a community name and then zooming in with my scroll wheel. I'm going to Huna. So the quick pop-up shows you a snapshot of the data with the time series shown on the bottom. You can click the calendar and change that, the time bounds if you'd like. The vertical axis shows that it's plotting feet and station data. And then there's some keys to download data, look at the station, or get the sensor or QC information. We're going to go to the station page for some orientation by clicking on the station name. And this layout will be consistent across all station pages. I think it's a great thing to talk through. This inset map just shows the star as the location of the station you're looking at currently. Some brief metadata. An important note is that if we are not the primary data source, which is a lot of the data sets on the Ocean Data Explorer, AOOS is not the primary data source, we link out to the primary source here. Another key piece is that the real-time data shown on the portal is not validated data. It is all preliminary data. So if there is data from a partner source, we highly suggest using this as a data discovery platform to say, oh, I didn't know that NOAA co-ops had a water level station here. You can click on the station, get a view of the preliminary data. But if you want the validated final data, always go to the primary source, which is linked out. Then for affiliations, you can see who's involved. So we're the owner of the station, and then JOA Surveys is the publisher and operator. They went out and installed this late last year. Okay, so for water level, there is one particular piece that I want to provide additional explanation on, and that's the datum. So for the x-axis, we have the time, again, adjustable with this calendar feature, with a few hot links for, past 3 days, or it's very customizable. And then the y-axis says feet and station datum. I'm going to go back to the slides for just a moment to talk through what datums are. So this is my 1-minute explanation. Person A says that they're the same height as person B. Is that true? Well, we say that depends on the datum. So the datum is just a measuring point. For this example, let's say that the datum is the floor. And if we're measuring to the tops of their heads from the floor, we say that, yep, person A is the same height as person B because from the floor to the top of their heads, they're at the same point. But if we measure these two people in a way that we're more used to, which is setting the datum as their own feet, measuring from feet to the head, we can see that person A is actually taller. So I bring that up because you want to make sure that you are understanding what datum you're working in so you can compare like measurements to like measurements. For a real-time application, this is really critical. Let's say that you want to pair looking at live water level data with utilizing a tool like DGGS's flood inundation tool or NOAA's sea level rise viewer. Both of those present water level data in mean higher high water. And there's a way to adjust that. So this was a big effort last year to standardize all the datum conversions and presentations. So if you click on the datum tab, you can now select which datum you would like your data to be presented in. And there's a nice graphic kind of explaining what these datums are. When in doubt, I'd say mean higher high water is a great option. MHHW, that's what those other tools use. And this checkbox says make selected datum portal default, meaning next time you log into the website and any other water level stations you pull up will all be displayed in mean higher high water, assuming that that title datum is available. So going back, just a quick check, we can now see that the water is shown in feet mean higher high. And now let's talk about how to add this to a data view. I'm going to click on the star. It's the same symbol on any page that you're looking for. And I want to create a data view for this. Let's call it ACCAP water level data. I want to save this plot to the data view, and I also want to put on the comparison chart. So there we go. Now I don't want just that because that would be boring. So I go back to the map and I add Petersburg. I'm choosing these just because they're nice and simple. They only have water level observations, so it's just a clean example for us. And we installed them late last year, so they're fresh in my mind. But when I type in Petersburg, click on the station, the red point, the same summarized data view comes up here, or data kind of presentation. And I can, without having to go to the station page, I can still add this plot to the data view, and I can add it to the comparison chart. But let's say that this is more of a real situation. I have a storm incoming, and I want to know not just what the water level is, but what the conditions look like. So I know that there's water level here, but I don't know what that actually looks like in real-time conditions. So I'm going to hide the real-time sensors, turn on the webcams, and I want to add cake webcams to this data view, and I'm going to add Angoon as well. So now you can either follow that hot link, or at the top, you scroll to the bottom, now your data view will be included in the list. And voila, you have your data view. There's a lot of customization you can do by clicking the edit or the settings gear icon. This is where you can put in the text description and links and photos and use that HTML formatting. Otherwise, you get the generic layout with the inset map with the points numbered and corresponding to the plots. And then your comparison chart. So I selected those 2 time series to be on the comparison chart, and here they are. If you hover over it, just like any other live data, you can see a value readout of the point you're hovering over. And then the webcams as well. So you can scroll through and see all this data. This is pretty nice. This is something that I put together, I mean, not this one exactly, but a similar concept when X-Typhoon Holong was coming through. Created a couple of data views for Southwest and Western Alaska to pull all the relevant water level stations to one place, and any kind of webcams or additional information that we could for conditions as the storm came through. And that's just so we can share it with our partners who may be working with community members, or for community members directly if they're wanting to see what a nearby community is experiencing, things like that. It's intended as a way to expedite the review process. Okay, so it's 11:36, and I have a few more data sets that I think I just want to highlight. And then we can open it up for questions and see if there's anything particular people want to see. I'm going to zoom out. And I'm going to go to find data because I know exactly what I want to look for. I'm going to click on shore zone. I'm going to add that to the map. If I wanted to, I want shore zone, but I kind of forgot what it's about. I can click on the view metadata. And it takes me to an explanation of what the shore zone imagery is. It takes me to a metadata URL or the website. And then I can really dig into what shore zone is. But going back to our map, going to the legend, toggling off the layers that I don't want to see, we now have a view of all the available shore zone data, the red being videos and the blue being photos. So let's say I am doing field work down here coming up this summer, and I just want to get an idea of what the shoreline looks like. If I zoom in and then click on a point, it'll automatically start to show photos on the top and then video on the bottom. I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer, and you'll notice that the box will track with the video, which is a really nice feature. So you can see exactly where in the world you are and where this helicopter was when they were collecting this imagery. It is a bit dated now. You'll see the timestamps on these photos. They range. It is a little dated, but there are ongoing collection efforts, I believe, for shore zone. So that's a really useful tool and kind of outside of the expected data sets, I think. And then other data set that I wanted to show, I cheated and provided myself with a link, but you could go to the catalog, search under moving platforms, which gives you a list of the gliders and buoys, things like that. And you could type in Gulf of Alaska or one of the words shown here. And then when you click on it, you'll be taken to this visualization tab. This shows you the track of the glider. And as you move along, you'll see a red point with the vertical profile. This is showing the temperature, seawater temperature. And on the right side, you'll see the corresponding time series with the depth and corresponding temperature, as well as a 3D visualization that you can rotate. And what's really nice is as you move along this glider track, you can see where you are on both of those visualizations and plots. I'm not very good at staying on the track line, but you can see the red bar pop up as I stay on the track. And additionally, you can go to the ecometrics dashboard. This is just a really great way to see a lot of amazing data summary and data visualization. One of the more expansive data visualization like dashboards that's available here. Same thing as you kind of move along the plots, you can see where you are in the real world and scroll down, and there's just a lot of nice data set to explore. It shows that it's already on the map, so let's go to the map. And now I'm getting a lot of stuff plotted. So I'm going to take off the shore zone imagery because that takes a while to load. And then zoom in. And here we are. We have our time series plots, or not, our tracks of the gliders. And as you hover over them, you can see all the various vertical profile data that's available as well. Okay. I did see in the chat the question about is it an app? Is it available for a phone? And Shayna did say that it's only a desktop version. So there are other data products that are in development to be more mobile friendly. I would say that there's some of these data sets or kind of data summaries like the dashboards are a little bit cleaner and more friendly to use. But yeah, the Ocean Data Explorer as a standalone product is pretty data rich, so it can be kind of hard to view on a phone format. Okay, I wanted to see if there were any questions about data sets to explore. Yeah, Brian. Oh, maybe Ed has to unmute.
Yes, hang on a second, Taylor.
Okay.
I'll unmute everybody here. So if you have a question, I am gonna allow you to unmute yourself and let's see. Also, you can turn on your video if you'd like to. And also feel free to put any questions you have in the chat as well. Go ahead, Brian. You should be able to. There you go. We see you.
Thanks all. Yeah. Can you hear me now? So
Yeah.
Shane probably knows the question that I'm going to ask straight away. I don't see the oceanographic high frequency radar sensors represented in this map that AOOS funds. I was wondering, and well, right now, thanks to I think a pretty exceptionally cold winter you're having up there, the waters that these would normally measure live surface currents and potentially some wave data as well are frozen over. So moot point until a thaw. But I was wondering if you could talk about those. Are they something that can be visualized in their location and their data in this tool? And if not, what will it take to get that capability in there?
Shayna, would you like to answer? Or I see Carol came off mute.
I'll let Carol.
Hi, Brian. So yes, we can visualize HF radar data on our data portal. They're not showing up here on the real-time sensor map because right now the Arctic radars are turned off. And the Cook Inlet radars are reporting now to the HFRnet. However, they are also powered down at the moment and being looked at to see what happened there. We had some big snowstorms and so they're down there trying to figure that out. It also wasn't reporting because there's a lot of ice in Cook Inlet this year. So the data returns were not producing current information. So normally in the summertime, when there isn't ice, you would be seeing the real-time radar data there. So there is a way to view that on the maps, and I can demonstrate that here if you want.
Yeah, that'd be great, maybe for some past period of time. And also something that, where the sensors themselves are located, there's little place marks for them.
Right.
I just wasn't able to figure out how to get them to display on the map.
So we
I was
refer
really
to that
impressed
as,
with this interface. I love this, how accessible it makes it to everybody.
right. So it's not the radial velocity that we want, Taylor. We want to look at the surface current velocity from HF radar and go up to the Arctic and Barrow, Utqiagvik. Nope, that's not it. That's probably a data layer. We're still trying to get the search for HFR radar data easier to find. That's not it.
Yeah, I'll jump in. This is one of the things we're working on right now is like all of the tagging so that people can search with different words. Working with like the data managers, they think in terms of what the data metric is. And, I'm not going to search for velocity. I would search for surface current. So we're kind of working on getting all of these tags correctly so that when you search, it shows up whatever kind of word you're using for it.
Okay, good. Now go to the map. And there you can see up in the Arctic, zoom in there, that is the Arctic, probably the last, it shouldn't be the last, but you can scroll along the time bar on the bottom. And you'll get different types of current visualization. So go back in time, Taylor, go back to 2015, summertime. There. Not May.
I'll jump in to say that I see on that surface current velocity that it mentions our former partners at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography's Coastal Ocean Research and Development Center. They had a data server that is now defunct since that Cord C group and their HF Radar Data Assembly Center has moved into an internal AOOS system. So I would be happy, offline, we don't have to burden all the folks on this, but to talk with you, Taylor, Shayna, Carol, in regards to any shifting over of data sources and collaborating with your now Tetra Tech, formerly Axiom team on making those changes. I think we can make it easier and quicker than it ever has been. So would love to see all that on this tool. Thank you.
Yeah, that would be great. It's always been available. It's just that you have to know, like in the wintertime, you're not going to get it. and the systems get turned off at the remote power stations. And yeah, so we do have it, and we are actually poised to have Tetra Tech add the cook inlet data because we want to use it as a data layer for a particle tracking tool we're developing with them.
Wonderful. Love to see those user applications. And last question, is there a place mark that shows the location of the HF radar sensor? Is that something that, when you can bring up on this tool easily?
There should be, but I'm not seeing it here in this map. That's something we can
I'll play around with it later. Thank you for showing me this. This is really exciting. I'm going to probably be playing around with this more time than I should offline. Thank you.
It's easy to do. Thanks for your question, Brian. I saw a question from Joel. Did you have a specific question about datums that you'd like addressed? Not hearing any. Are there any other questions from other folks? Oh, microphone difficulties. I understand.
Okay. Joel, if you want to type your question into the chat, you can go ahead. Okay, are you looking at the chat there, Taylor? A few things popping in.
Yes. Pam says, love the data portal. Notice that the remote automated weather stations only show data for 2015 to 2017, but most of those around the state are still operating real time. Is there a reason why they're not being brought in as a data source?
There might be. This is ringing a bell for me. Sorry, this is Carol with AOOS. That there might have been an issue with sharing the data. But that's something we'll add to the list and we'll investigate that. But I think I recall there being a reason why we were asked not to do that. If not, we will try to update that because it's also possible that there was just a change in the API links.
And yeah, thanks, Carol. And while Joel is trying to get his microphone to work, I have a quick question too. So how is this portal different from just going directly like to NOAA tides and currents or another federal data portal?
Yeah, thank you. So I kind of touched on this with the primary data source comment. The portal does serve as a data discovery tool. So that means that we're pulling together a lot of disparate data sets, showing them visually and then in a list format as well. And it's a great jumping off point. But like I mentioned, this is not the validated data. So if you were to go to the NOAA co-op site for a particular site, you're going to see a list of their particular stations with their data. And then sometimes it's preliminary, and then they pull and put in the validated data. So it's going to be the data that you want to download and utilize. But it's only going to show the subset of stations that they're affiliated with. So this, for the water level context, is just building the infrastructure and awareness across the state. So rather than having to go to 8 different websites to access different data sets, all for water level, you can come here and hopefully jump off to the various platforms, but at least you can get a glimpse into the real-time conditions across the board.
Okay, thanks, Taylor. It looks like we got a question in the chat from Natalie. Do you track visits to the Data Explorer? Do you know which information is visited the most?
From my understanding, this is those analytics are something that we would like to track, but we don't really have super detailed analytics yet. We kind of just have bulk data of how many times the site is loaded, but we don't know the users in detail from tracking. But we did do a survey this summer that was on the portal and the website, and that was an opt-in opportunity for folks to self-characterize and then say the use of the data at the time there was awareness of needing to contextualize this data that we're collecting and visualizing in a broader use case and understand the full potential of all the different applications. So that was really helpful information. And that gave us a snapshot of folks who were willing to opt in and give feedback. But past that, we don't have any specifics. Shayna, do you want to add on to that at all?
Yeah, Natalie, thanks. That's one of the things we've been really trying to get at. When this portal was set up, and Carol can answer more, like 10 years ago, the goal had been about getting all of these data sets, and hard to find, some that were sitting in boxes or sitting on zip drives, getting them into one location. So I think that had been the focus. Now we're kind of getting to the point of needing to curate a little bit more and making sure that we're getting, like I said, all of those tags and having to prioritize some data sets just based on the fact of our funding has been flat. So there's some prioritization we're doing of AU sponsored is the priority, real time is a priority, and then as we can, we'll get others in there. So we're trying to track that better. And Taylor, if you don't mind, I also think it would be important to just show the help and the feedback button on here.
Yeah, so the help button, if you click on documentation, is asking me if I'm overwhelmed by too many tabs that I have open. So the documentation tab brings you to what was produced by Tetra Tech, formerly Axiom, and it provides explanations of what we mean by real-time data versus near real-time, historical, on and on. It explains how to visualize data, how to download data, and the different data formats. This is something I didn't even touch today, but this is really, really useful if you need an explanation on what formats are available, and also some key tips, such as the server may take a long time to respond, be patient, it's not broken, things like that. And then the feedback button. So like I mentioned, with that share link, that sends another user the exact same view that you're seeing. The same function is paired here with the feedback. So if you type in error on this page, please fix, and you put your name and email, ensure that you're not a robot. When I hit submit, this will be sent to Tetra Tech with the exact view that I'm seeing, and they can either fix an error that's being shown, or perhaps you're working on a data set, you dug into it and you notice, oh, the affiliates link for my organization isn't here. We try to do a really good job, but there's a lot of data sets, so sometimes details like that need to either be updated or added. So this would be a great place to do that. You could say, please add, for example, Marine Exchange as an affiliate. We own the station. Tetra Tech could go in and update it, and they could also respond back to you to let you know that's complete or ask you questions.
And Taylor, just to add on, what's powerful about that is, like she said, it does send exactly where you are, what's being shown. So it really helps for, as you send that, it's not just a general feedback on the portal, it's that exact page with your exact data layers and what's on the map, so that we can really help evaluate what's going on and work with you on that.
Yeah, and I've had folks, if they're encountering some sort of navigation challenge, or they are having an issue that they want to talk through, they'll send the share link to me via email, and that way I don't have to recreate steps. I can just see exactly what they're seeing and go from there.
Hey, that's a really cool feature, that you could share your feedback like that. It looks like Joel looks like he's unmuted. Joel, I don't know if you want to ask your question. I know you were talking about MHHW, mean high water, and mean low water.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear, Joel. Go ahead.
Well, that's a major victory unto itself that I've gotten a microphone to work. Yeah, my point was this, that, I know everybody on the Bering side likes the datum mean high water. And I want to tell you, from a person that has lived and hopefully avoided dying on a lot of my nautical adventures. The mean high water on the Gulf side, where you have a reasonable tide range, makes absolutely it has no utility at all. Because when you look at the range between a holeback tide, otherwise a neap tide, or a king tide, it's just a really, really big difference between the two. And yet, you've got the mariners all out there on the Gulf side, in particular in Southeast Alaska, but also in Cook Inlet and out of Seward and Valdez and Kodiak, that are using the nautical chart where the zero line is mean lower water. So my only point is I just wanted to express a desire to go ahead and have a dichotomy, if you will, with your datums, and that on the Gulf side, please consider using mean low water. That's all I wanted to say on that
Yeah,
one.
thanks, Joel. Yeah, I think when I was speaking, I was talking about application to translating a water level to the flood inundation tool or sea level rise viewer. And I was saying, when in doubt, use mean high or high. But it's a very great point that you bring up that that's not across the board. That's a particular use case. And you're highlighting a really great use case. So for mean low or low, if you are working in another region where that makes more sense, you could set the mean low or low as your portal default. The only thing, the caveat here is that it's going to be portal wide. So you can't set particular datums for particular regions yet. That's not something that we have on our vision board right now, but that is something to note and maybe toggle as you're working through to make it relevant for the application. But thank you so much for that contribution.
And if I could say a final thing too, um, this is it's a political question, so if you don't want to answer, that's okay. But how are you guys doing for funding these days? And is there anything we can do to help?
Well, first of all, thank you for the second piece. Amazing. Knock on wood, right now, we're actually doing pretty good. We actually just received our notice of funding opportunity for our next 5 year. So despite being cut out of the presidential budget, both under Biden FY25 and under Trump FY26, Congress has put us back in. And both very bipartisan, Senate and House bipartisan, and then our particularly leadership with Begich, Murkowski, and Sullivan have all co-sponsored our reauthorization. So the support that we have from our congressionals, and they're listening to you guys. So there's a lot of things that we've been doing of kind of reaching out to people saying, call, send in a letter. These are all the things we can do. So the work that our partners have done to help keep us in has worked. So knock on wood, we're good for another year. I think every year is going to be a little bit of a battle, but I think everyone throughout the US has really seen the value of IUS and AUS in particularly up here. So thanks for that question. And please keep kind of posted on, you're welcome to sign up. We do have a newsletter. Go to our webpage and sign up for that newsletter. And that's one of the things that we put out of when we need some help. We'll let everyone know. So thank you.
All right, it looks like we're at the top of the hour. Are there any last minute questions from anyone? Okay, hearing none. Well, Taylor, Shayna, and also Carol too, you jumped in. Thank you so much for sharing everything about AOOS and the data portal. I think that was really great. I know you only scratched the surface there with the data portal. I will have a recording here later today, and it'll include all the links you talked about. I'll also put a link to your newsletter in email I send out with the links and the recording link. So at that, thank you again for everybody attending. We appreciate it, and have a nice afternoon.